We've been working through Jeremy Mackay's 12 rules for how to play the second role in a game of backgammon, and Rule 10 deals with double fours. And I have two bits of good news for you. The first bit of good news is that double fours is a great role. It's really powerful, and you can do great things with it. And the second rule is that this, I feel, is learnable. If you spend a little bit of time, you will get on top of it. You know, I'm thinking back to the double threes situation, which video we looked at just recently. And as I said before, I make these videos to help me learn. That's my primary motivation for doing these videos. And I think with double threes, I'm going to have to go back and watch it in a couple of weeks' time, in a couple of months' time, in a couple of years' time, because it's very complex. With double fours, I think if you can get the right thing to do, it's going to come fairly automatically. So that's good news as well. There is one bit of bad news, and that is it's such a powerful role that if you don't use it to its maximum effect, you can have quite an effect on your equity and therefore your PR. As Bill Liberty says, with double fours, Black's problem isn't finding a good play, but finding the best of several very good alternatives. So you want to just kind of do it correctly, or you'll see a lot of the mistakes when you do the XG analysis are straight into blunder territory if you don't do the right move. But as I said, you know this slide by now. Jeremy Guy has his 12 rules, and just a reminder that there is an order of priority to do rules 1, 2, and 3 first. But if they don't apply, well, then the other rules are just different situations. As I said, the situation 10 is when you roll double fours. There's a very clear default rule, which applies in 19 out of the 30 situations you might find yourself in, so it's quite commonly used, which is basically going to play 2 from the back and 2 down from the midpoint, up and down if you like, up from the back and then down from the midpoint. Here's the board here, as usual, bearing into the bottom right, and I'm going to move them in pairs because a lot of times the double fours, they do move in pairs. I'm going to play 24 to 20 with 2 of my checkers up the top and make my golden anchor, and 13 to 9 with and bring 2 down from my midpoint. You might think, well, should we not play 2 checkers down from 13 to 5 and make our own 5 point? Is not the point we're trying to make. But it goes back to the idea of, you can do multiple good things here. We've done 2 really good things here in making our golden anchor and making our 9 point. 9 point brings great builders into the attack. We've now got 10 checkers in the zone and are really well placed. So we're in a lovely position here. Bringing 2 down from 13 to 5, yes, makes our 5 point, which is fantastic, but doesn't achieve multiple good things. And for that reason, that's the best move, and it's straight into a blunder if you're to do anything else. There are some sub rules, but they're learnable, and a lot of times you do them intuitively. The first of these is that we should make our 5. We should do that 13 to 5 with 2 in 2 situations. One is if our opponent has left a blot here on that 5 point. So let's just have a look at the situation here. We have our opponent there has played was that 5-4, the normal way to play 5-4. They've left a blot on our 5 point, and it's just too good. We got to fight for that point, so we bring our checker down from 13 to 9, then 9 to 5 and hit. And then what would you do with the other thing? I think again it's fairly intuitive. You're going to say, well, look, I'm not leaving that unguarded on our 5 point. We can make our 5 point by bringing another checker down to keep it company, and that obviously is the right move. The other reason why you might play 13 to 5 is just if you can't do anything else. So if your 20 point is blocked, you're going to naturally find that's an obvious thing to do. So if you look at this situation here, you play the 2 checkers down 13 to 9, but up in the top right there, the default move plays from 24 to 20, but our 20 point is blocked. Black has rolled a 3-1. It only ever happens if they've rolled a 3-1. They've rolled a 3-1 and have made their 5 point our 20 point, so we can't do the other default move. So the only thing to do really is to take the 2 checkers and the 9 point and move them on in here. And again, we're in a nice position here, so it's certainly nothing wrong with that. But anything else, as you see, straight into blunder. The second sub rule is if you can hit 2 blots, it's always right to do so. And I like rules. Backgammon, there's so many rules in backgammon which mostly apply, but there are exceptions. I like rules where it's always, you just know, if I learn this and do this, it's going to be right. So if you can hit 2 blots when you roll double fours, it's always right to do so. So let's have a situation here where we can hit 2 blots. Well, we can look up the top there. We can bring one of our checkers forward, 24 to 20, and then on 20 to 16. We can hit there. Can we hit anywhere else? Yes, 8 to 4. We'll hit a second checker, and we rest confident in that knowledge that it's always right to hit the 2 blots. And the other good news with this sub rule I find is that any further roles you have to play sort of work intuitively. So we've got one more four to play. What would you do without even thinking about rules? What would you do here? Well, I think you'd look at the checker on our 4 point and think, God, we don't want to be hit back there. We want to make that checker and improves black's chances of dancing as well. So we're going to play the last one 8 to 4. What I like about this rule is it's not just if you can hit two blots, it's right to do so, but also it's if you can hit two blots, it's right to do so, and if you kind of follow your instinct, the next any other roads are going to play straightforwardly. So you can see that's the right thing to do. Here's another one where we can hit two blots. So again, let's do it. We can up the top there. We play 20 to 16, come out and then hit black's loose checker up there. Can we hit another blot? Yes, we can on our 2 point. So we play 6 to 2. And that's three of our rolls. Again, just stop and think, well, what would you do with the fourth roll? I think it's very obvious. We want to make that point in our home board, so we cover the 2 point, and it's the right thing to do. Now, this isn't one of Jeremy Guy's sub rules. This is just one of my little things to note that might help. See the way we've hit and covered on our 2 point. We've done that because it's part of hitting two rolls. It's never going to be right to hit. If there's just one blot in the situation, we never hit in the 2 point, and you can just discount that as an option. So if you look up here at this slide, we could play 6 to 2 twice and cover the blot on our 2 point like that, but it's never right to do so. We only hit in the 2 point if it's part of a double hit. If it's not part of a double hit, just leave the 2 point alone. It's not an exciting point for our opponent to have put a blot on anyway. It's not a point that we really want to compete for. And by hitting and covering, we're just burying checkers too deep too early. We don't need to be wasting our checkers that deep. And in that situation there, we just do the default move. So just remember that rule. You will hit on our 2 point with a double hit, but never with a single hit. But there's one final situation where you can have a double hit with double fours, and that's if you do the 4-1 opening. If our opponent has done the 4-1 opening, as I said before, the way Michi likes to play it, playing 4-1 like that, 13 to 9, and then 6 to 5, slotting the 5 point. Can we double hit? Yes, we can. Is it right to double hit? It's always right to double hit if you can. So we'll bring 2 out. Now we've 2 more rows to go, and think in terms of thinking intuitively, and there's no rule for this. Well, you could say, let's make that checker that we have up the top there safe and play the other checker forward and cover. But I don't think you'd do that. Look at black. Black's got 2 in the bar. So we can put that back there and say, well, look, what else could we do? The correct thing to do, there's two options. Slightly better by about, I think it's 3 millipoints, is to bring 2 down to the midpoint and into the action there to try and we want black's under pressure here, so let's bring more ammunition down. We might try and blitz them there, or certainly we won't be able to blitz them because they've got their anchor on their 1 point, but we'll be able to build a good attack in front of them there. So when black's got 2 checkers in the bar, there's no point worrying about playing safe. And XG prefers that move there. I have to admit, with me, I always think, well, if black's got 2 checkers on the bar, I'm going to try and make as many of my home board points as I can. So I'd play the 2 in from 8 to 4, just play 2 in from there, and I would have thought that was the better move, but XG slightly prefers. Look, there's nothing in it. 3 millipoints in the difference. So that's what I mean about if you do what is kind of natural and intuitive, you're going to be right. 3 millipoints. I'm counting that as good as right. Jeremy Beguy called it a substitution rather than exception. But speaking of Jeremy Beguy, he does clarify that rule about it's always right to double hit by saying you should never double hit by hitting on your ace point. And I don't really count that because your opponent would have to start with something unusual for that even to be an option. And even if, as you look at it, you'd kind of think it just doesn't. I put in a few positions that even with that odd position, you look and go, there's no way I'd ever hit my ace point here. But it is kind of one little caveat. As I said, I like the rules to be cut and dried, and he's put that as a little caveat. There's one situation where you could reasonably say, well, look, should I be hitting the ace point? But there's an obvious no. And we've already done it. When our opponent has played a 5-4, split to our 5 point, and as I said, the first 2 rolls we come down 13 to 9 and then 9 to 5 and we hit. And you could say, well, look, should we take that checker and trundle it on 1 more 4 and double hit and hit the checker on the ace point? No, I think you'd obviously say, look, we want our 5 point. So what we did with the, if you remember what we did with the that roll, that position, was we just brought another checker down from our 13 point and made a really good point in our 5 point. We just didn't consider hitting a race point. So I just put that in for completeness sake. I was kind of saying always double hit if you can. But I suppose, Jeremy, guys, caution you, it's just worth mentioning it. If that hit involves hitting the ace point, you don't do it. Rule 10C is another nice clear cut one, is if our opponent has played from 13 to 9 and left a blot there for us and we roll double fours, it's always right to hit with 24 to 16. It's always right to hit that checker. But there's only two circumstances where that happens: if they've rolled a 5-4 or a 6-4, and the follow-up varies according to which one of those they've rolled. So let me show what I mean. Is if your opponent's played 5-4, so you look up the top there, black has played 2 down from the midpoint with 13-8 and 13-9. Can we hit on the 16 point? It's always right to do so, so we should. So we play one of our checkers out like that and hit. And now again, you could make that safe, but we're on the attack, so we're better off bringing ammunition down, bring 2 checkers down 13 to 9. That's the right thing to do with if our opponents rolled a 5-4 and we can hit on the 16 point and just bring more ammunition into play. However, if our opponent has played 6-4 rather than 5-4, if you look up the top there, black has left a blot on our 16 point again. So we come out 24 to 20 and then on to 16. But there's a difference in this position here. Black looks like they have a good chance of if they roll a 6 as they come off the bar, they're going to make an anchor on their 18 point. If they roll a 7, they're going to make an anchor on their 18 point. So black has a really good chance of making an anchor on our 18 point, or sorry, on their 18 point, in our bar point. And remember Mitchie's rule: counter an advanced anchor with an advanced anchor. So in this position, black looks like they're likely to make an advanced anchor, a reasonably good chance of it. And for that reason, we can make an advanced anchor as well. And so we do. Up the top right there, we just take our back checker. Rather than bringing two down. So this is just an example of bringing 2 down and what it would look like. But we don't do that. We take our back checker and make it safe. Now if black makes the advanced anchor, we have an advanced anchor, and we've already what we call it, preemptively countered the advanced anchor that black might make. And for that reason, in this position where black rolled a 6-4 to start with, and we've hit on the 16 point, not much in it. And in fact, it's so little in it that my little version of XG on the mobile phone has the default kind of 13 to 9 as better. Definitely Bill Roberti says that the 24-16 with the 2 checkers is better, and I think higher powers of XG and higher qualities of rollout would favour the second option there, 24-16 with 2. There's not much in it, but definitely as our opponent threatens to make an advanced anchor, we should do that as well. And the final sub rule is if you can hit a blot on your 4 point, you should do so. And just look at the section thing here. You follow up with 24-20. There's really only one time this is going to happen, and that's if our opponent has rolled a 3-2 and played it the way I always play a 3-2, out with the 3 and down with the 2. We want to fight for our 4 points, so we're going to hit in the 4 point. We don't like leaving a blot there, so we're going to cover. And then it becomes a choice of, well, what do we do with the other 2 rolls? We could bring 2 checkers down from our 13 point and unstack the big midpoint, all right? But if you look at that position, it just looks a bit awkward and flexible. We've a stripped 9 point, a blot in our 8 point. It just doesn't look like a very flexible attacking option at all. So let's not try that. It's not disastrous to play 2 checkers from 6 to 2 and try and make a 3rd point on our home board. But there's one thing just to bear in mind. I always find with these rules, it's nice to know what you should always do. It's also nice to know what you should never do. And in backgammon, there's no such thing as a double 4 blitz. In the next video, we're going to look at the double 5 blitz. We looked at the double 3 blitz, even though it's a prime, not a blitz, but so on. But there's never a double 4 blitz. So if you're facing a situation you can do that, you know that that's not going to be right, because we don't do a double 4 blitz ever. So just rule out in your heads ever doing a double 4 blitz. So instead we put that back, and just the thing XG prefers is just, look, we've made a good start, we're slightly ahead, but let's just play the long term here, give yourselves a long term asset here. The double four blitz idea, again, making our 2 point. Yes, it's a third point in our home board, but it's too deep. So instead, we're just far better off playing 24 to 20 with two checkers and just settling for that. Where it's not, we haven't won the match or the game in that role, but we're in a much stronger position as a result. So just that's XG's approach: is just look, take your winnings, take your advantage, and be happy with it rather than trying to do anything too wonderful. And just remember, there's never a double two blitz. The good news is that's it. There are no exceptions. Usually I kind of have with Jeremy guys kind of 12 rules. I say, and hang on, there's a couple of exceptions. No exceptions. We've covered everything with that. There's kind of a list of the rules that I always give the rules at the end if you want to screenshot them. As it happens, the little study group I was in, I'd made similar rules here, and I just thought sometimes you might prefer a different kind of a style of approach. You can do that as well if you want. And that's it for double fours. We really are nearly at the end. This is the good news. Double fives and double sixes are really easy to play as opening replies and will take seconds. I said the double fives, I'm going to just do a little bit extra about the double five blitz. But the good news is, when in those terms of Jeremy Guy's 12 rules, as we were slogging through at the start, I was thinking, God, we are never going to get an end of these. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of these. Just 2 easy videos to come, and you'll be able for any second rule situation that you find yourself in. So, double fives coming shortly.